In this video, I'll deal with various editing commands in AutoCAD software. Editing commands are basically used to modify existing objects. You can see a collection of most frequently used editing commands in the Modify panel. When you click on this arrow, you can access more editing commands. I'll draw a line using the line command, and I'll draw a circle using the center radius option of circle command. When you just click on the erase command, it will ask you to select the objects. You can make use of any of the standard object selection methods which you have discussed in the last video to select objects. So I'll select these two objects using a crossing window. Okay, so the appearance of the object got changed. When you just give an enter, those objects will get erased. So erase command is basically used to erase or delete entire objects. Next, I'll talk about trim command. So I'll draw a line. I'll turn the ortho mode on. Now I'll copy this line a number of times. So I'll click on the copy command and select this particular line. I'll choose this point as the base point by picking. Then I'll choose a number of second points. So I'll get multiple copies. Next, I'll draw an arc using the 3-point method. So I'll click on 3 point, then 1, 2, and 3. So I pick 3 points. Next, I would like to get rid of or remove the portion of lines which are extended beyond this arc. So for that, you can make use of the trim command. You will get trim in the modify panel. So I'll click on trim. Now it is asking to select the cutting edges. You can see select cutting edge option. So cutting edge is nothing but an edge that can be used as a cutter. In fact, if you can use this particular arc as a cutting edge or as a cutter, you'll be able to easily remove the portion of lines which are extended beyond this arc. So I'll select this arc as a cutting edge. Now once you select the cutting edge, you can just give an enter. Then it'll ask you to select the object to trim. So you can choose those objects either by picking individually like this. But if you have too many objects, you can make use of a crossing window or fence option is given here. I'll use a crossing window to select all these objects in one go. So the trim command always needs a cutting edge or an object that can be used as a cutter. So I'll just undo this. Now I'll show you another method to perform trim. So I'll click on trim. And when you're asked to select the cutting edges, you don't have to select the cutting edge, but instead you have a select all option. So when you just give an enter, this particular option will get executed, which means that all the objects including the actual cutting edge is treated as a cutting edge. Now you can select the object to trim like this. Hence you can save one step. Now I'm going to move this cutting edge rightward. So I'll click on the move command and I'll select this object and I'll choose this as a base point and move it rightward to define a second point. I'll activate the ortho mode and make a pick here. Now in the trim command, we have another option which will let you perform extension. I'll go to trim and when I'm asked to select the cutting edge, I'll just give an enter and hold on the shift key when you take the cursor over here and you will get a preview of the extension of that particular line. Likewise, you can use the various object selection methods to perform extension. So when you hold on the shift key while you select the objects, the trim command can be used to perform extension. In fact, in AutoCAD, we have a command called extend. This particular method lets you extend an object. We don't have to use extend, but instead trim can be used to perform extension. Next, I'll talk about the offset command. Offset command in AutoCAD is used to create parallel objects. I'll draw a line starting from this point, turn the ortho off to this point. Then I'll draw an arc using the 3-point method. 1, 2, 3. I've drawn an arc. I'll also draw a circle. Okay. I'll give offset command. When you're asked to select the offset distance, I'll give a value. Let it be 120. Then it'll ask you to select the object to offset and the side to offset. So when you're asked to specify a point on the desired side, you can just pick a point. Again, you are back to select object to offset prompt. Now I selected this object. Then it'll ask you to specify a point on the side. I'll pick a point here. Then this time I'm going to select this as the object to offset and this as a side. And this is object to offset, this is a side. Hence, the select object to offset and side to offset will remain as a recurring prompt. But if you want to give a different offset distance, then you have to just give an enter to go out of the offset command. Then you have to give one more enter to execute the offset command. When you enter offset command, then it will ask you for an offset distance. I'll give a different value. Let it be say 200. Then it will ask you to select the object to offset and side to offset. Object to offset and the side to offset. Likewise, whenever you want to change the distance, you have to again execute the offset command. But when the dynamic input is on, you can provide this distance interactively. I'll just activate the dynamic input and this time I'll give offset command by typing the letter O at the command prompt. Now present offset distance is 200. I'll give an enter. I'll select this object to offset. When I take a cursor on the desired side, the software will display the distance. And here, if I want, I can give a different value. I'll give 300 instead. Give an enter. Now you can see that you have interactively changed the distance. Now I'll give enter to go out of the offset command. And let's see the options in the offset command. In offset, we have options like erase, layer, through, etc. The layer option we will see later when you talk about layers. Erase option will let you erase the original object. Okay, when you click on erase, it will ask you whether you want to delete the source object. I'll give yes. Now 300 is a present offset distance. So just give an enter. Select object to offset. When you pick the point on the desired side, the original object will get erased. Through option will let you perform an offset through a particular point. For example, I'll draw a rectangle here. Now, I want to create a line which is parallel to this line and it should pass through this particular point, and I don't know this distance. So in that case, I can give offset and I can go to through option. Now it will ask you to select the object to offset, then it will ask you to pick a through point. When you pick a point here, you will get exact offset passing through this point. The original object got erased because the erase option in the offset command was enabled. So that's all about offset. Next, I'll teach you the fillet and chamfer commands. The fillet is used to connect two objects using a smooth tangent arc, while the chamfer command is used to connect these objects using an inclined line. I'll make a rectangle using the rectangle command, and I'll go to fillet command. The fillet is available in the modify panel, so click on fillet. It will ask you to give a radius. So I'll click on radius. Let the radius be 100. It will ask you to select the first object to fillet and the second object to fillet. Now you can see a little preview of how it is actually going to come. Just make a pick there. Now you have got a fillet. I repeat the fillet. So I'll give enter. I'll go to radius. This time I'll give a higher value. Let it be say 300. Now this is the first object and this is the second object. Now let's see chamfer. Chamfer works in a similar way. So let's take chamfer from the modify panel. Now it will ask you for a distance. I'll give a chamfer distance of 150. Second chamfer distance, when I'm asked, I'll give the same value. Then it will ask you to select the first line and the second line. This inclined line is a chamfer. I'll go to chamfer again. I'll go to distance. This time the first chamfer distance I'll give 300. And the second chamfer distance I'll give 150. And when I'm asked to select the first line, I'll pick this line, and I'll select the second line, I'll pick this one. Now you can see that the first chamfer distance, which is 300, is applied to the first selected object, and the second chamfer distance is applied to the second selected object. So just make a click. So this is how the chamfer will appear. Now let's create a few more lines. I'll create a line like this, one more line, then I'll create another line here. At this time, I would like to make these two lines intersect at a point using the fillet. So I'll go to fillet, I'll go to radius. When I'm asked to specify the radius, I can give the value 0. Now this is the first line and the second line. But now I would like to perform fillet on this particular corner with a different radius. So what happens is when you go to fillet command, you will see the radius as 0 because that is a previously given value. But what I'll do is I'll give a value of 300 because using that particular value, I want to fillet this corner. Now I want to make these two lines again intersect at a point. You can do that without altering the value of the radius. For that, what you have to do is I'll go to fillet. Then while selecting the first object, you can hold on the shift key and select the first object and shift key to select the second object. So you can achieve the same result. So in this case, you haven't altered the radius value. You will get the same result using the chamfer command. So that's all about fillet and chamfer. Next, we will see the divide and measure commands in AutoCAD. So I'll start with a line. Then I'll also draw a 3-point arc. Divide command will let you divide an object into equal number of divisions. This command can be accessed by clicking on this particular arrow in the draw panel, and you will get divide here. In fact, this command appears in the draw panel because you actually create points using this command. So I'll click on divide. Alternatively, you can type the letters div using the keyboard, and I'll select this object. It will ask you for the number of segments. I'll give 7. Now AutoCAD places points along the length of this line in such a way that the distance between each consecutive points will remain the same. Now the points are not visible because by default a point is represented as a dot which merges with this line. So you have to change the display representation of a point. This can be done using the ddp type command. Now I'll change the representation to this particular one and just give OK. Now you can see that AutoCAD has placed points. Measure commands works similar to divide But instead of dividing into equal segments, this command divides an object into segments having predefined length. Let's take measure. It's also available in the draw panel. You have measure here. Just click on that, or else using the keyboard you can type MEA for measure, and I'll select this object. It'll ask you for a length of a segment. I'll give the length of the segment as 100 units. Now AutoCAD places points along the length in such a way that distance between each consecutive point will be 100 units. And the direction will be from the start point to the end point. So that's all about divide and measure. Now we have come to the mirror command. Whenever you deal with symmetrical objects, you don't have to create the entire objects, but instead you need to make only a portion of it. Sometimes you may need to make only a quarter of it, sometimes half of it, and the rest of the object can be created using the mirror command. Using the line command, I'm going to sketch a shape. I'll start from this particular point, then I'll pick a number of points to create this shape. Now I'm going to fillet this corner, so I'll go to fillet command and I'll provide a radius. So go to radius option. You can just pick 2 points like this to specify the radius, and the distance between these 2 points will be taken as the radius. And this is the first object and second object. To fillet, now I've got an arc here. Next I'll draw a circle using the center radius option, and I'll choose the center of this particular arc as the center of the circle, and I'll just make a pick to define the radius. Next I'm going to apply mirror command on this figure. So you can see mirror in the modify panel. Just click on that and I'll select the objects using a standard window. Now I'm asked to define a mirror line. A mirror line is made up of 2 points, and I'm asked to give the first point on the mirror line. Now I'll pick the first point here, this end point. The axis of symmetry or the mirror line is represented in dashed line here, and since the ortho mode is on, if I pick a point right underneath or down below like this, I'll get a mirror on the left side. Now I'll just give enter to repeat the mirror again. Now I'll select this entire object, and this is the first point on the mirror line. This time my axis is horizontal, so I'll pick this particular point as a second point on the mirror line. In 2 mirror commands I could generate the entire object, because this particular object happens to be symmetrical about the horizontal and vertical axis. Now I'll undo this. Sometimes the axis can also be inclined. I'll show you an example. I'll give mirror again. I'll select these objects to be mirrored. First point on the mirror line, and I'll pick the next point here. So if the axis is inclined, the mirror image will appear like this. I'll undo this. Using the mirror command, you can flip an object about an axis. So I'll go to mirror again and I'll select these objects, and I'll choose this as a first point on the mirror line, and I'll turn the ortho mode on, and I'll pick a point right on top to define the next point. Now the software is asking me whether I want to erase the source object. If I give yes, what happens is the original object will get erased and I'll get a mirror image. So this is how you flip an object about an axis using the mirror command. Next we will see the rotate command in AutoCAD. I'll erase the object. Now I'll make a rectangle. Another line connecting this midpoint to this point, then a circle, and I'll trim off this portion of the circle. Okay, this is the object I would like to rotate. Now you can get rotate from the modify panel. Just click on rotate, or you can type the letter RO at the command prompt. Then I'll select these objects to be rotated. Now it will ask you for a base point. So base point will act as a pivot point on the object about which you rotate the object. I'll choose this particular center as the base point. Now when I move the mouse, you can see that the cursor is locked at 90 degrees because the ortho is on. I'll disable ortho mode. Now you can see that you can move the mouse freely, and depending upon where you pick, your object will get rotated through a corresponding angle. Okay, if I make a pick here, my object will get rotated corresponding to that angle. If I want, I can give precise values in degrees. So I'll just give enter to repeat the rotate. When I'm asked to select object, I'll type P. P stands for previous selection. We have already seen that. Now when I'm asked to select the base point, I'll give @ @ stands for the last point, which is the same base point, or else you can just go and pick the center. When I'm asked to give a rotation angle, I give 45 degrees, and that particular 45 will be taken in the anti-clockwise direction from the existing position. Now I'll undo both the rotations. Next I'll give rotate again. I'll select the objects. I'll choose this center as a base point. I'll turn the ortho off. When I'm asked to give rotation angle, I'll give 45 degrees. 45 degrees. So I'll go for rotate again. When I'm asked to select the objects, I'll give P for previous. and I'll choose this as a base point. Here you have two options. One is copy, another one is reference. If you go for copy, you will get a copy of the original object when you rotate. That means if I give 45 again, so I'll get the original object here and a copy of it rotated through an angle of 45 degrees. Now I'll go to rotate again and I'll select these objects and I'll choose this as a base point. And let's see the reference option. So when I click on a reference, the software will ask you for a reference angle. The reference angle is the existing orientation. You know that this orientation is 45 degrees with respect to the 0 angle. And I'll give 45 as the reference angle. If the reference angle is the existing orientation, your rotation will be taken with respect to the 0 angle position. But otherwise, if you rotate, we have seen that the rotation will take place with respect to the existing orientation. So if I give a new rotation angle as 90 degrees, and if I give an enter, you can see that it will get rotated with respect to 0 angle position through an angle of 90 degree. So reference option can be used to nullify the existing orientation, and the rotation angle which you provide will be taken with respect to the 0 angle. Now we have discussed some of the frequently used editing commands in AutoCAD. In the next tutorial, we will continue with the editing commands and we will create some figures so that you will get a chance to practice these commands and you will get on-hand experience.